Welcome everyone, this is Andre's Restart, and today we are talking about how Nintendo may have a racing game problem. What do I mean by this? Well, I think they have a bit of a problem in the sense that they have so many different magnificent racing series, and they are just not tapping into them. Most of us here, probably listening to this video, have only somewhat recently played Mario Kart. But that's not the only Nintendo racing series that exists. There are plenty more. So why haven't we seen any new entries during the Switch era, one of the most successful console runs of all time? Well, that's what I would like to talk about today. But before going forward, let me point out that we are currently aiming for a goal of 40,000 subscribers, so if you do enjoy my content, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. So I was looking through trying to find some interesting details about this subject, and I found this IGN article from back in 2021 where it was conducted with Takaya Imamura, a now retired Nintendo artist and designer. And they got into talking about F-Zero and the future of the series and if it can come back. And this is what Imamura said. Of course, I thought about it many times, but without a grand new idea, it's hard to bring it back. And then just slightly later into the article, IGN writes that Imamura had reassured them that the F-Zero series isn't dead, even with him no longer being at Nintendo. And I think this article is actually interesting, because many people would assume, well, yeah, unlike Mario Kart, most other Nintendo racing series don't sell well, so that's why they just don't exist. But with F-Zero, we are starting to see the signs of a comeback. Just last year, Nintendo announced F-Zero 99. And there are the rumors that have been circulating for a little while of an F-Zero GX remaster. Now, we don't know if perhaps those rumors somehow got conflated with F-Zero 99, but I've been erring on the side of optimism here and thinking that perhaps F-Zero 99 is the beginning of a comeback to the F-Zero series. So we have F-Zero 99, that is technically a Nintendo racing game that isn't Mario Kart, and perhaps they will build upon that with an F-Zero GX remaster. Who knows, maybe this year, since we supposedly won't be getting a lot of big new games, maybe we could get some quality remasters like GX, and that may set things up for a couple years into Switch 2, we see a new entry for the series. That's my optimism, and I do think Nintendo likes to do things in this way. We've seen them build up to other gaming releases before. I always bring this one up because it's such a great example, but you look at Pikmin 4, there was a lot of little things that they did for Pikmin in lead up to Pikmin 4. Pikmin in the Universal Park, Pikmin Bloom the mobile game, Pikmin 3 Deluxe the remaster, and then we got Pikmin 4. So if you think about it, the Pikmin littered throughout the Nintendo Universal Park, I would argue is somewhat similar to us seeing Captain Falcon and all the different Smash reveal trailers, and also having the Mii costume and tracks in Mario Kart 8. Cross-series marketing. But then you look at Pikmin Bloom, they took the game and put it in a format that could reach a very large audience. That's very similar to what they did for F-Zero 99. It's free for all Nintendo Switch Online members. That's going to help it reach a large audience, so people can at least give it a try and be acquainted to the franchise if they haven't been beforehand. And if these rumors of the GX remaster hold true, then that would be pretty much like Pikmin 3 Deluxe, a remaster of a prior quality game in the series. And then that opens the door for perhaps a new release that could become the best selling in the series, the same way it's been done for Pikmin 4. So I have at least an optimism that we could see F-Zero make a comeback. And with F-Zero being my personal favorite racing series of all time, I'm definitely pulling for this, and if we can only pick one other Nintendo series to be relevant outside of Mario Kart, I do think F-Zero is the best option, because I think it really balances out the variety of gameplay. Mario Kart is a kart racer. It's not fast-paced. These games are designed to be enjoyed with others in a party-like setting. There's fun, there's mayhem going on. It's not a pure, high-speed racer. And it's very colorful and cheery and lighthearted. It appeals to everyone, including children. F-Zero, on the other hand, is more of an extreme game, in the sense that we're talking about high speeds, to the point where you can't even notice certain things. You have to learn the tracks and get better at it. It's almost kind of like the Souls-like of the racing genre, which hurts me to say because F-Zero was a thing before Dark Souls, but Dark Souls is relevant now while F-Zero is not. F-Zero doesn't appeal to an extremely large audience, but it appeals to core-centric racing fans that like to learn and get better and strive to beat difficult tracks. And it's not about karts, but futuristic racing crafts that defy gravity, flying through fire and space and all sorts of other crazy sci-fi environments. It's a different beast altogether, which is why it always pains me when some people hear these conversations and just say, oh, just play with Captain Falcon in the Mii costume in one of the 2 F-Zero tracks in Mario Kart 8. To me, that's like saying playing as Marth or Roy in Smash Bros. Is playing Fire Emblem. It's a completely different experience. Yes, there's some cross-series promotion and love in Smash Bros. And Mario Karts for other smaller series, but it's not a substitute for those series. It's merely a reference to them. And if anything, I think that's more of them just putting it out there so more people are aware, oh, there's this other character out there that exists. Maybe I'll check it out sometime. So yes, I think there's a decent chance F-Zero can make a comeback here, and it would be a really nice fit alongside Mario Kart if it could become a recurring series. But in order for it to become a recurring series, whatever they do with the next new game, if that does come a few years down the road, it's got to reach a larger audience. Because when you take a look at the best-selling series of all time from Nintendo, outside of Mario Kart, there aren't really too many that are high in sales that are of the racing genre. The Excite series and the F-Zero series are pretty far down there, but there are other lesser-known series that are even smaller, like Wave Race, for example. And I think the main reason we haven't seen these series come back is because they're not really big sellers. And it pains me to say this because some of these games are really interesting. Excitebots is one of the most unique racers I've ever seen. And it's so fun, the Excite series. There's some really cool, amazing, fun tracks. It feels very different. Honestly, I feel there's a world where we could have Wave Race, where we could have 1080 snowboarding, where we could have a new entry in the Excite series, F-Zero, and Mario Kart, and they wouldn't overlap with each other because each experience does feel pretty different. Wave Race is about riding waves, and the manner in which you race around the waves on the jet skis, there's a physics behind that, there's an understanding behind that is unlike any other racing game. 1080 snowboarding is about understanding how to snowboard down slopes, and that's different than riding on a cart or a futuristic racer at breakneck speeds. And then Excite Truck or Excite Bike or Excite Bots all have their own unique spin that feel really different from anything else. So I think there's room for these different series to make a comeback, provided Nintendo thinks that they're worthwhile. And I think sometimes people think that, oh, if the game's not going to be able to sell 4, 5, 6, 10, 20 million, that Nintendo won't do it. And I don't think that's fair to say because Nintendo does have smaller entries that come out. They do revisit IP that have not had a strong history of sales. Look at Another Code Recollection, for example. Nintendo recently published that. They did just give us F-Zero 99. And then there are other recurring series that sell maybe 2 to 3 million, but we see them happen, like Fire Emblem, like Xenoblade. So I do think we could see some of these series come back in the future. I really just think it's a matter of time for most of them. Some people might argue that Mario Kart satisfies the entire racing genre, to which I just strongly disagree because there's so much variety out there. Nintendo has several platforming games, Nintendo has several adventure games, Nintendo has several different styles of RPGs, different styles of multiplayer party games. They can have multiple fighting genre games, as they do. Smash Bros, Pokken Tournament, ARMS, all of which released within a 2-year period, by the way, in the early generations of the Switch. So my point simply is that just because two games could technically fall under the same genre, within the same broad genre of racing, there can still be so much variety. During this transition from Switch to Switch 2, where we may be getting more remasters, this could be a grand opportunity to see some of these racing series make somewhat of a comeback here, beyond just F-Zero. Here's an idea. What if the Kirby game we get in the not-so-distant future before HAL puts together maybe a sequel to Forgotten Land, which is likely going to require some ambition and time, maybe we get a remaster of Kirby Air Ride. That game is beloved, and many would be extremely excited to see that come out for Switch. And it wouldn't be that hard to do. Upscale the visuals, spruce them up slightly, and give us online. If you want to add in more new content, that's amazing, but I'm not even asking for that. And I think a lot of people will be all for a Kirby Air Ride on Switch. So Nintendo may have a bit of a racing game problem right now in the sense that they can't put out as many racing games as we would like. They are continuously trying out different things, bringing in some smaller series. Another one I'll just throw out there, Endless Ocean's coming out in May, so let's not pretend Nintendo doesn't revisit smaller series, they do. And I'm sure we'll see some racing games come in the not so distant future as Nintendo continues to build up their own development studios and partner with more and more companies. So I'm optimistic for the future of the different racing games that we could see from Nintendo, but what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. This is Andres Restart, thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.